Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Wednesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, 2014. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, Sony announces it will show The Interview on Christmas Day. Was the entire farce a cynical PR campaign?
Well, it looks like the government and Hollywood are conducting an experiment to see if they can get a war started using social media. Instead of starting something like World War I, where the slogan was, "Remember the Maine," I guess we could call the next one, "Remember the Interview." Yes, we have Daily Mail saying, "You can't silence our freedom of speech." A backlash is going on now against North Korea. Sony hack, they say, as a mocking picture of Kim Jong-Un wearing makeup sweeps Facebook, along with a hashtag, "You can't silence our freedom of speech." No, you can't silence our freedom of speech. What you can do is trick us into letting our own government take it. That's what's really behind this. This is an effort to sell CISPA. And as we'll also see, it's also an effort to sell the U.S. population as well as South Korea and North Korea on assassination as a means of foreign policy. What would you expect from the CIA? But go back to that picture. It's amazing to see that picture. They've got a picture of Kim Jong-un there with makeup, looking very much like an Asian version of the FBI. And of course, this all boils down to the FBI telling us that they know that it is North Korea alone working on this. They are the lone wolf state now, I guess. But we have an article up on Infowars.com. Was the FBI wrong on North Korea? They point out the senior vice president with a cybersecurity firm, Norse, said Sony was not just hacked. This is a company that was essentially nuked from the inside. We're very confident that this was not an attack masterminded by North Korea, that insiders were key to the implementation of one of the most devastating attacks in history. That's the head of that company there. He says that Norse data is pointing towards a woman who calls herself Lena and claims to be connected with the so-called Guardians of Peace hacking group. Norse believes it's identified this woman as someone who worked at Sony in LA for 10 years before leaving the company last May. That would be about the time these leaks started to happen. He said the woman was in precisely the right position, had the deep technical background she would need to locate the specific servers that were compromised. And of course, they point out other experts, and we've reported this as well, in cybersecurity and private intelligence are also questioning the FBI's claim that it was only North Korea. He says there's certainly North Korean fingerprints on this, but when we run all those leads to ground, they turn out to be decoys or red herrings. Absolutely. You can sell this by routing your attacks through another country. Any hacker does that if they know anything about it. And of course, we have the very best hackers in the world at the NSA and the federal government. As Aaron Schwartz pointed out before he died or was killed, he pointed out that virtually all of the hacks have either been created by our government or funded by our government. We are the master hackers. And to illustrate that, we shut off the power to North Korea's internet. Took down the internet these last couple of days. Now, Paul Joseph Watson points out the obvious thing, I think, is this a marketing scam? He says Sony is going to show The Interview on Christmas Day in theaters. Well, now they have even brought it up to today. You can now purchase it online today. And as Paul Watson pointed out, they made this link to North Korea quite a bit after the hacks first started coming out, putting out information about individual stars. Now, there's a lot to this. They're not only selling us on CISPA, but they're also selling us this movie. Remember the Streisand effect, named after Barbra Streisand. She noticed online there was a project looking at coastal erosion in California, and they had a picture of one of the houses on the coast was her house, and it could be made out. So she called her lawyers and told them to take it down. At that point, it had only been downloaded 6 times, 2 of those times by her own lawyer, so 4 times perhaps. After they filed suit, it brought it to everybody's attention, and it was downloaded 420,000 times in just a short period of time. Now remember that internal emails pointed out that The Interview executive said was desperately unfunny. They said it will flop if we don't pull it. This is the picture now that everybody is clamoring to see. They're going to show our enemies in North Korea, give them our 2 minutes of hate by painting makeup on Kim Jong-un and putting this all over social media. And we're going to show them that we can't be intimidated. No, we'll give up our freedoms, give up give a kill switch to the internet, to the government, without any struggle whatsoever. But look at what they were also doing. They were colluding between Sony Pictures, between the State Department, between the Rand Corporation, an analyst with the Rand Corporation, and between the CIA prior to all this. And what were they pushing? They were pushing the narrative of regime change by assassination. The Daily Beast had pointed out last week that Sony emails said the State Department had blessed the Kim Jong-Un assassination in the interview. Now, to point out what this is, since you probably haven't seen this yet, maybe you'll rush out and get it later today. It has a gruesome ending, they say, where a giant missile hits Kim Jong-un's helicopter in slow motion as they play a Katy Perry song, and Kim's head catches fire and explodes. Sounds like just the sort of thing you want to see on Christmas. But that's the kind of desperately unfunny ending that they had. But here's something else that is desperately unfunny. The fact that they're running this by a Rand Corporation analyst, and he said, when I have briefed my book on preparing for the possibility of North Korean collapse, I've been clear the assassination of Kim Jong-un is the most likely path to a collapse of the North Korean government. And then he goes on to say, I believe that a story that talks about the removal of the Kim family regime and the creation of a new government by the North Korean people will start some real thinking in South Korea. And I believe in the North once the DVD leaks into the North, which it almost certainly will. Oh, but now it's going online, and now their internet has just come back online. After shutting down the country, it just came back on just in time for them to be able to download it from Google if they wish, or from Amazon or wherever else that they're going to get it. And they said at the same time, the same day, they had another email. It says, Bruce, I spoke to someone very senior in the State Department. He agreed with everything you've been saying, and I'll fill you in on the details when we speak. Do you understand how many ways they're using this lousy, desperately unfunny film to sell propaganda? It's not just movies that are pretty obvious about it, like Zero Dark 30, which also came out from Sony, also a Japanese country that desperately dislikes North Korea. But they're working on everyone, even in this kind of a silly movie. They're working on the American public, on the entire world, to sell their narrative, to try to justify their policies of assassination as well as torture like they did in Zero Dark 30. And of course, the CIA's involvement, as it pointed out by Radar Online, they said that it was weeks before the company realized that their entire computer system had been compromised by hackers that the FBI now leaks to North Korea. They were meeting, the head of the cybersecurity at Sony was meeting privately with the CIA. And again, that comes from Sony's own emails. Now, later on in the show, we're going to have a little synopsis that shows how our own dictator has really come into his own in 2014. That would be Obama, of course. Now, if a desperately unfunny comedy that's really a propaganda piece, maybe we should have a new genre. We could call it propaganda comedy, like romantic comedy is a rom-com. We could call it PropCom.